What's the role of God in government, or is there a role? It's one of the most controversial questions in American politics today, and the debate is now spread to one of the 7 natural wonders of the world. Here's reporter David Brody with that story.
To see the Grand Canyon in person is awe-inspiring. Its beauty and size is humbling. Deep inside the canyon, it is filled with majestic images. It's also filled with questions. Just how old is it? Secular geologists say it dates back millions of years. Try telling that to Tom Vail.
Runs right across here, about a 45-degree angle.
Here in the Grand Canyon, Tom runs Canyon Ministries. It's part whitewater fun, part Bible lesson. He teaches those along for the ride that the canyon isn't millions of years old. Rather, it was formed by Noah's flood 4,500 years ago.
The sandstone is still somewhat fluid, and it can move. And
he's written a book about it called Grand Canyon, A Different View. It's being sold in the Grand Canyon bookstore. Inside are stunning photographs and interviews with dozens of scientists who back up the creationist view of the canyon.
What we see in the Grand Canyon really does support what we read in God's Word.
His book has created quite a bit of controversy. Several science organizations sent a letter to the National Park Service asking that it be pulled from the bookstore. In that letter, they complain the book is not about geology, but rather advances a narrow religious view about the earth.
The reason they become so upset with it is that if we're right, okay, if the Grand Canyon is a result of a global flood, and that the Bible is true, okay, then there's God. And if there's a God, there is a God that they might be liable to.
The National Park Service doesn't have an official version of how the park was formed or how old it is, so even though the Park Service said a few years ago they'd review whether or not the book should stay, no decision was ever made. So the book is still there. The Grand Canyon Association approved it.
We are committed to supporting science here at the Canyon, but as educators, we feel again that having divergent viewpoints is the best model, because then that way people can reach their own conclusions rather than only being given one alternative.
But these scientists say Vail's book is a religious one and shouldn't be sold in a government-sanctioned bookstore. Plus, the secular geologists are convinced that their version, the millions of years version, is the right one. They claim a majority of scientists believe it to be true, so the Park Service should adhere to that version.
We're not trying to censor the book. The issue here is that in these Park Service maintained stores, they are only supposed to approve material that supports the interpretive theme and is accurate. And according to their rules, this book shouldn't be sold.
Tom Vail has a long list of why he believes Noah's flood formed the canyon. For example, the contact points between the layers are tabletop flat, signaling a flood of epic proportions.
There's no sign of either physical or chemical erosion along this point. And if that represented 15 million years, you would expect to see some sign of erosion.
He also points to tons of these fossils found near the red wall limestone in the canyon. For fossilization like this to occur, the fish must be buried catastrophically, like in a huge flood, so it's protected from decay. You know, the irony here is that for years, Tom used to teach the evolutionist theory of the canyon, but he was left with too many questions. Later, he became a Christian, and his perspective changed. The way he sees it, this is a classic case of creation versus evolution, a battle of religious worldviews.